What's up, and welcome to the greatest teacher of all time, where I, Quincy Dawson, interview teachers of color, tie up their philosophies, strategies, and personalities. Today, I've got Dana. What's up, Mr. Harris?
What's going on, Quincy? How you doing today? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate this.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invite, man.
Yeah, man. I know we were talking before about like the questions and topics and stuff, but something I didn't tell you is that you were actually recommended from another teacher to be on the show.
That feels great to know. That definitely feels great to know.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So somebody sees that you're doing some great stuff and want to get you some recognition. So I'm here for you.
I appreciate that.
All right, Dana. So let's get into it. So you're a teacher and also a tutor. You're going to be delivering curriculum to teachers coming up soon, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So I actually want to start with getting into your philosophy of education. So starting off, I want to talk about something you actually posted on your Instagram account. And it was just a simple post with some text. And it says, do you think students should memorize their times tables? Right. So you said something in your comments or in your captions. Some people said stuff in your comments. But what are you thinking? What's your thoughts on that?
That is centered around my experience of not only as a student when I was younger, but it's also been even more centered around my experience in the classroom. Starting out with high school, then going to middle school, and then now entering the realm of elementary school on the professional side. Yet also, I've worked K-12 and above as a tutor. And so that idea came from this concept of I've seen kids that have struggled with algebra simply because they have had struggles in calculations. I've also seen how students a lot of times are given these multiplication tables. And I've seen a lot of kids that don't know how to use those multiplication tables. And so I kind of put all of that together and I put that out there, and I wanted to hear feedback from other educators and parents and students as well, simply because we live in this era where we have computers in our pocket 24/7. And so some people think, oh, there's no need to memorize multiplication tables. But for me as an educator, I believe it definitely helps simply because a lot of kids, they get stuck in the mechanics of a problem simply because they have problems with calculating multiplication. So that's what that whole post was centered around, those thoughts.
Yeah, and that's super interesting because coming from my experience, right? So I remember third grade, we had to memorize them. We had the time test like every week. And the way we did it was every like number you memorize, you get that piece of like an ice cream sundae, right? Or a banana split or something like that. So like by
Uh-huh.
the end of your 12s, you should have your vanilla, your chocolate, your banana, all that together to get your ice cream sundae by the time you're done.
I like that idea. That's cool.
It's cool, right? But check this out, not for me. I was super behind with mine. I remember the day of the ice cream party, I was in the classroom. I'd do like 5 tests back to back to back, and
Uh-huh.
it was a struggle for me to finally get my ice cream sundae.
Uh-huh.
And so this is a story that I'm like barely feel comfortable telling people that I
Mhm.
never memorized my multiplication tables, right? But I always thought it was important that I knew how to figure it out. So what are your thoughts on that? Knowing it versus, or sorry, understanding how to figure it out versus memorizing it. Where are you on that?
I think, and that's a great, first of all, thank you for sharing that story, because that's also part of, wanting to know different people and their experience with it. And so I like the fact that the teacher had some form of reward system. However, on the other side of that, when you have these kids that are being rewarded publicly, and for you in your case, being that kid that went through that struggle, I realized that that could cause anxiety, that could cause fear, that could cause math phobia, and a lot of other things that you could internalize, or any student can internalize. So when we talk about memorizing them versus knowing how to find them out, we're in an era of this concept of conceptual understanding. I believe that there are a lot of people that know their times tables by heart. Let's just say from 0 to 10 or 0 to 12, because we had to learn them through 12 in when we were younger. However, they might know them, but they don't understand. If you gave them a certain type of problem that's written in words, they may not understand how to draw a diagram to represent that problem. They may not understand things like the commutative property that says 4 times 7 is the same thing as 7 times 4. So there's a deeper level of knowledge and understanding that people don't have, or a deeper level of understanding. They have the knowledge of knowing the times tables, but they may not have that deeper level of conceptual understanding to figure out how to maneuver those. And then we can go even further, people that may not be able to connect the times tables to division facts as well. So there's so many different levels to that.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. And also going back to your caption you actually wrote, you were saying that it helps to know them 1 through 12, right? And you
Yeah.
also value that there's a lot of different ways to get students to know them.
Yes.
But touching on one of the comments someone left, they said it's good to memorize it first and then know or understand it later. Where are you on that dealing with elementary school students?
I remember that comment, and that's an interesting one because I think there's so many different factors. Number one, there's the teacher factor. Even before the teacher, there's the home environment. A lot for me, I was fortunate, and the very reason that I was strong in math was because my grandfather was big on education, and so my grandfather, before I even started school, I was just observing him teach it to my older brothers and my uncles. So that level of exposure outside of school is a strong level of support that students need as well. So back to your question specifically, I think that memorizing them first, then going back and getting the conceptual understanding, that's kind of a tricky one because in this day and time, the way the classroom goes, you would actually have to go back and get that conceptual understanding on your own in a sense because they're teaching new topics constantly. They're going at a slower pace in K2, but once they get to third grade, it's pretty much new stuff every day. So for students that maybe learn at a slower pace, they can begin to doubt themselves. And it's sometimes the teacher plays a part in that, but there's so many different factors that play a part in that. And when you're seeing other kids around you that are getting these wins and so-called memorizing these facts and things like that, a child may begin to think, they may begin to question the ability of their brain to really process and learn certain things, man. So there's a lot of things internally that can go on within the minds of kids in that aspect.
Yeah, I'm definitely on it too. I was speaking to a history teacher and we were talking about like getting young elementary school students to understand like the real history behind like African American history and slavery and all that, right? I was saying at my young age, at least I think today, I don't think back then I was able to understand or handle that type of like reality, right? So it's same thing with like the math. Like I don't think when I was in third grade I could actually conceptualize multiplication. Do you think most third graders can, or am I just underestimating?
No, I think you're on point with that. What I'm realizing is that first of all, having an interest in it is a very important part of this. Having a teacher that you feel cares about you as an individual, that's building a relationship with you as an individual. Although you're in this classroom with 25 other kids, that has a big part to play in it. And so many times, no, you think about the development of the brain is not really fully developed to somewhere between 21 and 25. And so when we talk about conceptual understanding, I'm a firm believer that if it was up to me, kindergarten through fifth grade, kids would just practice four basic math operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And they would master that. I came from an era where that's pretty much what we did. Now you have some subtle algebra concepts. Okay, 5 plus the square or a shape equals 8. What does the shape represent? That's algebra in a subtle sense. But I believe that if we took the time to have kids master those four basic operations in that K5 grade level, then now when we take them into middle school, we can make an extension of that. Now they not only that gives them time to not only memorize, but also have conceptual understanding because the information can be presented to them in so many different ways in those years.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I like how you're saying like it's levels to it, right? Like you got to build up to being able to conceptually understand that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, okay, I like that. And maybe getting more into your page and like your tutor business, right?
Mhm.
So, scrolling through your page, you are a tutor, right? A paid tutor and everything, but you also post your tutoring videos online for free. Why is that?
Man, exposure. But actually, it started from some students. Man, I started my YouTube channel in 2016, I believe. Right, I was teaching juniors and seniors at the time, and I had a group of kids that they just needed that fourth math credit to graduate. Most of them were not the strongest math students; they were just getting through, but they needed. It was the class that I taught was the lowest level of math beyond algebra 2. So you had what was called advanced functions and modeling, which was the class that I taught. You had pre-calculus, AP stats, and then you could take AP calculus, right? So I learned from teaching middle school that facilitating in a classroom is so much more effective for me. And what I mean by that is giving them chunks and putting them in cooperative group works and things like that, cooperative groups, and going around and facilitating, right? So anyway, in that particular year, I tried something one day. I just recorded a video of me teaching, and I put it. This was when that school had just started one-to-one Chromebooks, right? And so I put it on Google Classroom. I gave them the lesson, and then I gave them the assignment, all linked in Google Classroom. And these are juniors and seniors, so they like to be independent. They don't like to wait around and wait for this other person to finish and those kind of things like that, right? So after I did it the first time, I went back and just reflection time with the kids. Hey, what did y'all think about that? And they were like, "We love that, Mr. Harris." Well, why did you love it? Well, because we could stop and rewind it, and we could ask questions to you while you were walking around the classroom. We could go at our own pace. If it was something that we already understood, we could go ahead and just get started on the work. So it's much simpler. And then once we finish our work, we can chill. So after that, I started doing it more and more. And the kid, that was that year, the kid was like, "Harris, you should start a YouTube channel. Harris, you on IG? Yeah, I'm on IG. Well, do you have an IG for your business? No, you should start an IG for your business." So I started those YouTube videos to use in my classroom. And then, man, it just became something that I was like, you know what? Wait, there's so much more beyond the topics that I'm teaching in this classroom that people need. There's so many people, millions, probably billions of people that are in a classroom with one teacher like yourself or myself, and they may not be successful under our teaching. So why should they be stuck to just one person's form of teaching because they can't choose who that teacher is. So one year they might have a phenomenal teacher. Next year they might have a teacher that it just doesn't work for them. So that kind of encouraged me when I got that feedback from those students. Joshua Byes, man, I'll never forget his name. Joshua Byes was the kid, a white kid too. He was the one that was like, "Harris, man, you got to start that YouTube. Harris, you got to do the IG, man." So that's where that all came from. And I like that concept of when you have a gift or you have something to offer the world, give it away for free. What is something that you would enjoy doing if you couldn't get paid for it? And I actually enjoy teaching math. Most of my videos, if you look at them, it's pretty much old school teaching. I'm just doing standard algorithm type stuff, but I think that stuff still has a place in the classroom. Now I can get down and we can do this 2022 teaching and things like that. But that's exactly why I started giving away those lessons for free, man.
Yeah, man. And I like that how it started as like a helper for your classroom, right? But then it kind of worked to like extend itself to its own arm where like people who probably never even met you can use these videos and benefit from it.
And that's what I want to see. That's exactly what I want to see.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, Mr. Harris, you got the answers. and so um
Thank you.
and so in that you were kind of talking about your journey, right? So starting as a teacher, then with the videos, and then with the videos you became a tutor also while teaching at the same time. Now you're moving on to a different role, right? Can you explain what that is going to be?
So I'm currently going through the process of on the professional side, becoming a math facilitator, math coach, however, whatever title you want to put to it. But it's basically supporting elementary school teachers in their practice. This is year 17/18 for me being in the classroom publicly. And I've seen a lot of different teachers. I think there are a lot of great young teachers that are coming out that have the it factor, but there's also a lot of older teachers that have the it factor, and then there's young and old and in between that don't have the it factor. So this role is important to me because number one, to be able to support teachers. I know what it's like to be a teacher and feel like you don't have a lot of support. You don't have the time to find different resources, to be that teacher where they're expecting one thing, but no one has truly showed you how to do this thing that they're expecting of you. I've been that teacher that has had observations, and I'm upset because I get a certain rating on my observation when you were only in my classroom for 15 minutes, or even if they were in my classroom for an hour or more. That's 1 hour out of five 90-minute class periods per week. You know what I'm saying? So I think that this role is important to just be able to support teachers even more, but also to be able to support more students. If I'm not confined to one room, I can go around kindergarten kids, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. I love that because that to me, once again, some kids are having an experience with a teacher that is not a good experience. And it's not always that this is a bad teacher. It just means that there's not a real connection between the teacher and that student. And every student, I feel like students deserve to have a teacher that they think is a good teacher. But unfortunately, a lot of them aren't getting that. So
Yeah.
that's what makes me excited about this role. The fact that people are actually looking to me for my level of expertise and my experiences to share with them to help them be better. And I'm going to be learning from them as well. This is my first time working in elementary school professionally. So I'm looking forward to that. The kids, man, I posted on Facebook a couple weeks ago that I just finished my first week in elementary school, and I feel like kindergarten cop. And if you've seen that movie, he was like, "Oh my goodness, no! I was a cop, and I'm working with all these, and these little kids are touching me, they're hugging me, they're pulling on my leg and pulling on my clothes and this and that, and they're so needy." And I used to have that mentality, but I realized that that's where a lot of the math problems start for kids. So even if you don't have that support on the home front, if you can go into your elementary school and that K through 5 grade level years and feel like you have a teacher on campus that really connects with you, that really helps you understand, man, we could change the trajectory of a lot of kids' academic career.
Yeah, dude, I love that. Yeah. And that just goes in you realizing that you have this gift that you want to expand that reach outside of just one classroom, one student you're tutoring, right? This is about to be great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe with that too, right? So you're going to be helping teachers as a math facilitator. I want to get your thoughts on one more thing for like your whole teaching philosophy. So there's another post you made on Instagram, and it says, inquiry-based learning is good. Inquiry-based learning around something that interests students is great. What do you mean by this? What is inquiry-based learning to you?
So inquiry based meaning learning that's centered around problem solving, learning centered around asking more questions, asking better questions, learning centered around a real life experience. And so for me, in my experiences, I've taught. I'm licensed in 2 states, so I'm licensed in the state of California as well as the state of North Carolina, right? And what I've learned, I've never worked with well, every school I've ever worked in received Title I funding. So I like to just keep it real. I've always worked with the hood kids. I've always worked with the kids that, maybe were rough around the edges. I worked with the kids that it was kind of like, you know what, put him in Harris class. He can handle that kid. And so when I talk about that inquiry based learning based upon centered around personal experiences, when you can connect with what the child is dealing with outside of school, it makes a big difference. I've had students that say on the first day, I'm only here because my PO says I have to be here. I don't really care about school. That's the only reason why I'm here. And so now think about it. They've also built up these different concepts about not liking math many times, or because a lot of kids don't start out not liking math. They actually enjoy it. But at some point they have a bad teacher and it just sends them off to on a bad path. But when we talk about this inquiry-based learning, it's not just giving examples of how to solve exponential equations and telling them to do some problems with exponential equations and things like that. It's actually taking and for example, I did a lab one time. It was a baseball lab, right? And so what we did was we showed them that the home plate is 90 feet away from the pitcher's mound, right? And so we went outside, we took this ball, and when we took this ball, right, we put paint on it. And the kids got to throw the ball and see, number one, how if they could reach the 90 feet, because all of them was like, oh, this is easy. But then they realized, like, wait, throwing the ball 90 feet is not easy. They also was able to see the trajectory of the ball. So they were able to see how this ball might start here, but then slowly gravity takes upon it, takes hold of it, and it starts going lower and lower. Well, why was that important? Because number one, that was when I was teaching in Oakland. We had the Oakland A's, the baseball team. You see what I'm saying? So it was relevant. Most kids were A's fans. It was relevant to them. I did things centered around basketball. Oh, well, we're going to talk about quadratic equations. Well, let's talk about the path of the shot when Steph and Clay shoot the ball. You see what I'm saying? So now we can look at that. We can talk about the difference in how high the ball goes based upon his release, and how the path of that ball is in the form of a parabola, and many other things, man. And that concept also was reminded to me in a book by Dr. Chris Emden, and the book is for white folks who teach in the hood and the rest of y'all too. And he talked about how when we talk their language,
Sorry, wait, that is a very captivating title.
man, if you haven't read that book, phenomenal book. But it talks about this stuff, getting to know kids for their world outside of school. So when we have inquiry-based learning that's centered around the things that are going on in their neighborhoods, in their environments, things like that, now you get a little more buy-in.
So wait,
Because
check this out. So I want to talk about this from a tutoring perspective, right? So tutoring
uh-huh.
is more like reinforcing topics that they've already got in school,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you're trying to do this inquiry-based learning, right? I think inquiry-based learning works best when that is your introduction, right? Like you don't get a boring.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so check this out, right? Let's say you do have a teacher who's maybe not as in touch, and they teach trajectory by saying something like this ultimate frisbee team threw the frisbee, blah, 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 right? That's not interesting to me. But
Nah,
once
because if
you
you never
start,
play frisbee, if you never play ultimate frisbee, you like, I know what a frisbee is, but what is ultimate frisbee? So
it,
you can easily disconnect.
exactly, right? So then when you come along, tutor that student days later, hours later, right? Your intro with Steph Curry probably isn't as hitting as much because I already have like the boring mindset of, oh, this applies to frisbees, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how do you approach that? Like I already have the boring idea in my mind. How are you changing that?
One of the most important things that I do as a teacher as well as a tutor, when I first bring in a client, I tell the parent off the top, I want our first session. We're gonna take half of that session probably. And I'm just gonna ask the student questions. I want to know what you like. I want to know if you hate math. I want to know that. If it's just the fact that you think your teacher teaches over your head, I want to know that. I want to know, are you involved in extracurricular activities, whether it be sports, whether it be gaming, whether it be you just like to, I don't know, whether you like to collect sports cards, or you might be a rock collector, and that's fine. What's going on, son? Those are the things that are important, because that's going to tell me what type of examples to use for that kid. If I have a kid that I'm tutoring and he tells me he's a basketball player, then I can use the Steph Curry shot example. So to answer your question, I've got to get to know what are that kid's hobbies. What things are they interested in? I'm still trying to figure out more about anime. because I get a lot of kids that are interested in anime now. As a matter of fact, I had a student years ago. He was so into anime and he would draw. And one day I was like, "You're not paying attention, Diz." And he was like, "What do you mean, Mr. Harris?" He was real laid back. And I was like, "You're not paying attention. You back there drawing again, aren't you?" He was like, "Yep." And I was like, now I'm mad. Like I started walking back there, but what he had did was he was taking his math notes, but he was drawing on the same paper. So he drew this anime picture first and then took his math notes over it. I've since lost that paper because he eventually gave it to me. But to me, that was a dope experience because although I don't know much about anime, although I'm not an artist, that was an experience that let me know, hey, don't be so quick to shun things that kids are into. And also be willing to learn about the things that they're into all the time. I talk about some of the music that they listen to, but after I talk trash for a few times, after a while, I'll come in class one day and say, "Hey, so I listened to this NBA YoungBoy kid y'all keep talking about." And then I'll give my 2 cents on whatever it may be. So yeah, you're talking about some great examples. I think about pickleball even. I'm just now learning about the sport of pickleball. But my kids in East Oakland, they probably don't know much about pickleball. But if I show them my homeboy Giz, who is a black man with dreads, and has got a story of getting in trouble when he was young and things like that, and now he changed his life, and now he's going around the world teaching people pickleball, they're gonna be like, "Oh shoot, this pickleball thing might be cool." So I get buy-in, man. So the example that you use is very, very important because number one, as teaching anything, people learn. They don't want to learn from a person that they don't know, like, and trust, right? Now we can pull some of those out of there. You ain't gotta like me if I'm teaching you, but if you know me and you know that I'm interested in your life and you as an individual, then you start to trust me. And as you start to trust me, I can teach you more. Now your confidence is building up, and then now eventually you like, wait, Mr. Harris, you know what? I actually can do math. And it's like, yeah, I've been trying to tell you that the whole time. Like, well, why was I struggling all along? I don't know. It took the right person. So these connections, when you talk about my philosophy on education, the foundation of my philosophy of teaching is centered around relationships, man.
Yeah, man. Mr. Harris, you got the answers. You got them. But yeah, man, thank you again, Ms. Harris, for sharing all this, your insight of your philosophy of education, your thoughts of memorization versus actually learning, and your whole tutoring business and everything are some of the reasons why you might be one of the greatest teachers of all time.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. And also, Dana, with the support of Transcendence Children and Family Services, I want to present you with this $100 prepaid gift card to help out your students, your classroom, and everything like that.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. So yeah, after I'll get your address and everything, figure out a way to mail this to you. But yeah, again, thank you for this.
Thank you, man. And I encourage you to continue highlighting teachers. We're in a day and time where education is constantly evolving. And I think that there's so many different teachers that are going through different things. And one of the good things that has come out of the pandemic is more teachers. Like you said, you started this because you wanted a way to connect teachers. And I think that is so important. Like we don't have to do all the heavy lifting anymore. I heard someone say, if you're not stealing, you're not teaching. So if you're doing something that works great in your classroom, although you come from the science background, science and math go hand to hand. So I could say, hey, well, Quincy, check this out. I noticed you did that lab doing such and such and such. Let's talk about that. You know what I'm saying? And so I can flip it and put my own personality to it and make it work for my kids. So definitely keep doing this.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. And same thing for like the purpose of these videos too, right? Like I imagine a teacher thinking like, oh man, how do I do this inquiry-based learning? Like what exactly is it? They'll search it up, see this clip and learn from it. So yeah, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. All right. Again, thank you to everyone else for watching The Greatest Teacher of All Time, where I, Quincy Dawson, interview teachers of color, tie up their philosophies, strategies, and personalities.